Welcome to the Ladies in Biz podcast, where every week we have guests that are amazing female entrepreneurs. Find out how they got started and grew their business. Discover how their story can help you grow your business. Thanks for tuning in today. Here is your host, Penny Redmond.
Welcome everybody to Ladies in Biz, and today we have Annie as our guest, and Annie Gaudreault, and her company is Veev, and we're going to talk all about it, and it's all about health and wellness. And so if anyone is even thinking about changing their life and the way that they live it in a healthier aspect, then you've got to listen to what Annie is going to share with us. Hi Annie, how are you?
Hello, thank you for having me, Penny. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Do you think I summed it up a little bit about it's all about health and wellness?
Totally,
Okay.
absolutely.
So let me just go over your bio so people know that you come with all this experience and you can talk to us because you've lived this. Oh, so your career spans over 25 years in public relations, design and branding industries in Fortune 500 clients, such as Nestle's and Molson and McCain Foods. You decided to work with the big guys. Mm-hmm. And you're embodying a contagious zeal in living life to its fullest, which you do. I can vouch for that for sure. And you practice what you preach. You do. An accomplished endurance athlete, Annie has completed over 10 marathons, including the prestigious Boston Marathon, as well as 3 long-distance triathlons, Ironman competitions. That's amazing. And you've also done this while living with cystic fibrosis, which is even more amazing, and we've got to talk a little bit more about it. It's a genetic disease for those that most of us know that affects the pancreas and the lungs. So for you to be able to be an athlete like this sort of mystifies me for sure. And then in order to further your health and wellness area, you recently graduated with a holistic nutritionist, as a holistic nutritionist. And you founded your company called Veev, and it's dedicated to support the health of middle-aged women live with vitality and strength. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. How are you?
Great, thank you. Excited to be here today.
Oh, that is good. So the first question that we always ask all our guests is just to give us an idea, Annie, about how did you ever decide to start your own business?
This is actually, Veev is my third business. So yes, because I've had 2 branding and design businesses before. I would say that the biggest thing though, my first business that I own on my own was in my late 20s, and at the time, late 30s, how time flies.
Yeah.
And I was at a crossroad. I had a business before that I owned with my life partner. And so all my eggs were in one basket. And when that relationship went away, I found myself a little bit of at a crossroad of, do I start again on my own? Or do I go and get a job? And I remember that on this, a little bit here, the shoulder, there was this little voice that constantly said, you've never done this completely on your own. Before you had a partner, and there's a lot of security in having a partner. And there's also a lot of wonderful things about having a partner because of the complementary skill sets. But I think that my own gut feel was, I think you need to try to do this on your own to see if you've got what it takes. I think I really needed to challenge myself. And at the time we had sold our house, and I thought, well, I'm going to take my money. And if at the end of the year, I gave myself a year, and if at the end of the year I ran out of money, guess what? I'm going to go get a job. But I thought 12 months was a good amount of time to make it work. And the proof is in the pudding. It's been lasting since then. So.
Oh my goodness, it's such a risk though, isn't it? And I think I hear from a lot of people when they start their business, it really is scary when you get started.
Oh, yes.
So smart of you to take that, as, give yourself a year and know that you've got enough income to be able to live without being, feeling too much stress or pressure.
Yes. When we're desperate, people feel it as well in sales, And that is not the nature of the relationship that you're trying to establish with people. You know, you want to be able to give. And when you are in a desperate situation, all you want to do is take. And that does not work with the sales integrity process. We all know it, right?
Yeah, it certainly does. And it is, and just like it, we're going to talk about your customer because number one that I've noticed in how all businesses evolve, and yours definitely is, I've seen it evolve because I've known you just long enough to see it evolve, and that's healthy. I always think if your company isn't evolving, then that's not a good sign because people change, people's needs change. So one of the things I noticed with you is you decided to focus on a specific niche, and it is for middle-aged women. So can you tell me about that thought process and why you decided to move into going into a niche?
Sure. You know, when I went back to school to become a holistic nutritionist, I started to put my foot in the health and wellness world by starting to give workshops. And, you know, my comfort zone was in boardrooms. You know, I had been presenting for 20 plus years. So I thought it was a natural evolution to keep the same audience, but talk to them about health and wellness instead of, you know, branding and design.
Yeah.
And it was to a certain degree relatively easy. And slowly I started to feel that why I had gone into this business, i.e. the health and wellness business, which was deeply aligned with my values and my passion. That's why I started this, right? It had to be aligned with me. I felt that giving workshops was great, but I still did not connect at the level that I wanted to connect. And when I started to peel the layers on that, I figured, you know, I'm a middle-aged woman and women are my passion. I love working with women. I had coached running years ago, and it was a women's only running group.
Oh.
If I look back at my life, it was one of the happiest times of my life. One of the most rewarding things is that I took hundreds of women from the couch to the finish line of their first marathon.
Can you tell me, sorry to interrupt, Annie, can you tell me when you were doing your original workshops, were they a variety of people then at different ages and
That's right.
genders?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be, you know, like a fairly large company that, you know, brings 30, 40, 50 people in, you know, in a big, large room. And then I talked about cardiovascular diseases, how to improve their sleep, all kinds of different subjects. And I'm not saying that that's not important. And it's actually really important to actually support people wherever we can. But I just felt that there was something more important that I needed to do, and where I connected in a deeper level. And so when I finally kind of put the 2 and 2 together of what's bringing me the most joy and where do I believe I can have the greatest impact, you know, it's middle-aged women. And it's at a time when women, 40s and 50s, it's a time of transition because well, sometimes kids are leaving the house. You know,
sometimes you're having them.
Sometimes they do a boomerang and they come back. But we're having to adjust to relationships that are evolving. Our relationship with ourselves, first and foremost, is changing because our bodies are changing.
Yeah, I really feel as though the more and more I talk to so many women, obviously, you know, we do, and we have our friends, but it does seem interesting because that 40 seems to be that I don't know, dividing line where all of a sudden we turn 40 and we go, wow, we're just not the same person we were before. Things are so different and we look at life differently. Even our mindsets become different.
Yes. And it's so interesting that you use word mindset because that was a catalyst in my life to see that it is entirely possible to see a shift in ourselves and life in our 40s and 50s. I remember the founder of our running group, Jean Marmorio, she's a Toronto physician, and she told me one day we were on a run and she's a little bit older than me. And I was like, so Jean, you know, what do you think 40s are all about? Because I was about to turn 40 in a year or so. And she was like, Annie, 40s are great, but 50s are rocking. And I was like, really? And then I thought, I'm not sure she's right about that, but I will tell you that's exactly what happens. There is this beautiful shift that happens because we come into our own. And that's why I think it's a beautiful moment for me to be able to support women's health, because they want to take hold of their lives in a whole new way, in a way that is aligned with who they are. And I think that that's a very powerful time.
I think so too. And one of the other things I think when you hit those ages is that most likely your children have left. And before, your lives were so busy in your career or starting a business or raising children that your focus was really not internalized. It's like, I just have to get these done and I've got to get these tasks done. And then there's a point in your life and you say, wow, I'm where I want to be, but I forgot about me. And so where's me now? And when you turn that 40, it's like, where is me? And 50 is like, I know who me is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And from a physiological standpoint, we get away with a lot in our 20s and 30s.
Oh, yeah.
Lack of sleep, not proper nutrition, negligence over, just activity, rejuvenating the body, etc. So eventually in your 40s, the body goes, excuse me, no more. And then suddenly we experience, the weight gain is like just the tip of the iceberg. Inflammation starts. We may start to get the doctor going, your blood pressure is high. Your triglycerides are a little bit elevated in your blood. You're starting to see that your digestion is not functioning properly. Those are all the results of the accumulation. It's not what you just ate yesterday, Yeah. So we have to pay attention because we're forced to, so that's a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Well, it's true though that when we're in our younger years in 20s and 30s, we are so busy, and we, I would say that the next generation is getting a little bit better than perhaps where the boomer generation was, but taking care of themselves and making sure that they've got a little bit more balance in their life. But it does catch up with you, and particularly that weight gain that you're talking about. You see it over and over again, and I think that most people think that they might be immune to it, or if they've been heavy all their lives, that they're not going to get heavier, but you do. It just keeps creeping and creeping and creeping up without you even noticing it. So how do you prevent that?
Well, there are many tools that are available to us, and this is what I teach in my coaching programs and my workshops for women, is that
that's why I asked you, because I knew you'd know.
Yes, because just like someone who is a great cook, and bakes a beautiful cake or the most amazing lasagna, like it's a recipe. It's a recipe for that success. It is the same with aging, what I call aging joyfully. Aging with vitality, aging with strength. It is also a myth, in my opinion, that aging has to be this thing that we suffer through, where we
doing that. Yeah.
It's complete BS.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
We have many examples in the worlds of societies where men and women age with such strength and purpose. In North America, and there's a whole historical context, of course, that explains why we look at this retirement and then boom, forget being extraordinarily engaged and starting new things and learning new skills, and also, by the way, having a strong body. Women, and there are not just athletes that are seniors that are the proof of that. There's many people that live with incredible vitality, and it's just about understanding what you need to do. You need to adjust your nutrition and your supplementation in activity, in rejuvenation as well. What I call rejuvenation is all the things that bring you joy and the things that nourish your soul and bring you joy in terms of your spirit. But we have to pay attention to what are those pillars and apply them over and over again to be able to, have an incredible vitality and strength. So it is definitely possible. you know.
It sounds to me it's not just food, it's also your outlook in life that has to be combined with it.
Yes.
Because then it becomes a lifestyle, not just,
Completely.
it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle chosen to be,
Completely.
be able to do whatever you want in your life.
There are 6 pillars essentially to aging joyfully. And those are the core pillars that I teach. And it is no fail, I'm telling you. And it is a mind, body, spirit. It's a holistic approach, because you cannot take care of just the body and forget the mind or forget the heart. All of this is connected.
So are you going to share with us what the 6 pillars are?
I might. Yes. And I would also say that, it's looking at this over and over and over and everything that I have read and everything that I've observed, and even when we travel, I see these seniors and I go, wow, look at what they're doing. Look at how they're engaged. It's absolutely incredible, So.
But the boomer definitely has set a demographic that has decided to change and say, you know what, we're not our parents. We're not going to be old. We're going to continue to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
Live well, be able to do all the things that we wanted to. And so it's just amazing. So you do see a lot of seniors now where you wouldn't have in the past, where they are doing things like you, where they're doing marathons and triathlons, and they're doing whatever they want. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And I always say, aging is a part of life. It's a natural process of life. But aging well is a choice.
Yeah, you can't stop it. Like the genetics are just there. But I think you can prevent it from deteriorating faster, at least in my mind, I think.
Totally. You can really optimize. You can optimize who you are and the what is in you, and I 100% believe in that. And I see it all the time with my clients. So I speak from experience and I try to live that myself.
Well, you definitely live by example.
Yes.
And so anyway, so tell me more about the 6 pillars, because I'm going to try to follow.
Yes, absolutely. So, it's obvious that nutrition is the first pillar. Activity is the number 2 pillar.
Okay. And
that goes for everyone of any age, but even more crucial as, we enter middle age, definitely. And then what I call emotional and environment. So how is that set up in our lives so that we are in a positive, in a positive space, relationships and, environment, where we live. And it's beyond just a home, of course, in terms of our community. The 4th pillar is supplementation. That is clear, that is required. 5th pillar is rejuvenation. So the whole notion of taking care of the soul and ensuring that we have time to recuperate. And the last pillar is purpose. And the Japanese have actually been really ahead of us on that, where I believe it's called, now of course I will not pronounce it with the proper accent, but your ikigai. And it's basically your reason for getting up in the morning, having something that is giving you purpose every day. And the Japanese believe that your purpose in life changes throughout the course of your life, because you enter different phases. Purpose at first might be, I am going to be learning to be the best, nurse in the world. And then purpose also is I'm going to nurture my family with my children, etc. And then my purpose will be migrating, because I now also have to be taking care of elderly parents or perhaps, grandchildren. But they also have a purpose of how do I belong in this world and where do I fit in this community? And there's multiple roles that play within that. And I strongly believe that it is one of the issues within North America where we discard people that are seniors as being purposeless,
I guess, but it starts with you. You have to feel you have a purpose to be
Yes.
able to show that there is purpose.
Absolutely. It's everything comes back to a personal choice. That's why I say aging well is a choice.
You know, I'm so glad that you put that number 6 in, because it'd be easy to say there's 5.
Yes, I know.
This is so important. And I got to tell you, I never thought through it. And those listeners are probably going and thinking about their lives right now. And I don't know if listeners, did you hear or see in your front of your eyes the purpose and how your purpose has changed? Because I know my purpose has really changed. And because, you know, have kids, there's a profession, there was working in corporations, there's working in a business on my own, and the kids are gone. And I think that I wonder, hey, is this a purpose? I wonder if this is an issue for a lot of women when their children leave, because for me, I know that was a big thing on what's my purpose now, because they're gone, because they were my purpose for so long. So it's like I had to find my purpose again.
Yes. And the changes, the transitions of life are, I call them messy. You know, they're a little messy because they're filled with tension. There's uncomfortable feelings, you know, the loneliness potentially, you know, there is a grieving of children leaving the house. You know, we grieve that transition, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, every time they went away in September to university, it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And particularly when the last child left, it was like, whoo. But I kind of embraced it really quickly and said to my husband, woohoo, we're empty. I know my purpose.
Yes. And that's a healthy approach to it. Absolutely. You know, and it's okay as well to not necessarily find the purpose within 48 hours, you know, to give ourselves the time to explore. And
that I say that, but it didn't happen overnight. Believe me, there's a lot of sad days before we got to that point. I'm going to bring you back up to number 1 again.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of information about nutrition and stuff like that, and I know you've just finished your education and furthered your education.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's not finished. It's probably just another stepping stone in it. But if there's something like in nutrition, you'd say, hey, there's a common thing that everyone should consider.
Mm-hmm. I think that what we forget is diet is not one size fits all. So what I usually invite people to do when we work together is really to look at what they have been doing and how their bodies are responding, and then to make the adjustments that they need to do. We often know instinctively, you know, that certain things, right, don't make us feel too good. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. When I eat that, you know, it's always a problem. To really, really be looking at listening to your own body. And the second thing is that, you know, a lot of nutrition is straightforward. It's simple, but it's not easy to implement in day-to-day life, you know? So I often invite people to be open to the change, just as we transition in life, to transition a little bit of how we're going to approach nutrition and diet. And, you know, we have to eat our entire lives. That's why nutrition also is not easy, because it's not just a fix of, you know, I'm going to change the furniture in here, put new paint, and wow, the house is going to be done. Okay, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Morning, lunch, and dinner, you know? But the principles of food are simple. You know, we all know.
You know, I also think that you're right about, I really agree that we all know what we're doing wrong. And in it, foods that don't make us feel really good. But it is, sometimes it's those patterns we really have to break, or that habits that we formed. And, you know, we think, I'll tell you a story real quick. Is years ago, I was traveling an awful lot from over in Asia, and I could never get my energy level back to what I was accustomed to. So I went to a nutritionist and went through that, and we cut out coffee. And coffee is, I can tell you, caffeine is not good for me. You know, everybody is different. Lots of people can have caffeine.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, you're so lucky, because I wish I could, but I cannot have caffeine. But the problem was not the caffeine as much as the habit that I had, that when I went in the car every morning to go to work, I'd stop at Starbucks. I would get my coffee. I would say hello to everyone in the coffee shop because it was regulars. At the same time, have a chat. And then it was like sort of like more like a friendly time for me. And it was a great way to get started, seeing these people every day and being cheerful and saying, good morning. And then I had to stop that. So what I did do was I kept going to Starbucks, but then I went to just buy a bottle of water. And then I also used to buy at Starbucks these cookies that were full of butter. In fact, in which I cannot handle either, as a bunch of butter. And now I know, back then I didn't. But it was the hardest thing for me because it was habit driven. And it took a while, but you know what? Eventually I stopped going to the Starbucks. But it took me a while to do it.
Mm-hmm. And what you're talking about is so key to what I teach, the habits versus the rituals. And
that's a good way of putting it. It is a ritual.
Yes. And often when I work with people is, as we need to make adjustments and there's some habits that are very challenging, what we try to do is replace the habit so that the ritual is not all lost. So for example, one of my clients, same situation as you, the coffee was really causing a lot of issues. And she was like, yeah, but you know, the first morning I always go outside and I journal and it's part of my thing and it's warm and it's a mug. And so we worked on, okay, so what else can go in that mug that you can still go outside and you journal and it's warm and it's cozy. So we work on an approach that, you know, respects the ritual, but provides an alternative. And it doesn't mean, again, that it's easy, but it's a simple way to try to create a new ritual. And as you witnessed and experienced yourself, you know, that starts to become, you know, second nature. And then the person, you know, 3 months later, she was, you know, Annie, the other day, I even forgot about coffee for the first time. And I was like, there you go. It's just a matter of time, you know? And of course, you get the benefits of feeling so much better in this case.
Yeah, you know, that's the willpower comes in when you start feeling really good. You go, well, it wasn't even worth it. You know, it's not worth me having that ice cream because I can't have dairy.
Yes.
It was good the moment I ate that drumstick, but after it was not such a good moment.
Exactly.
So, and now I'm going to bring you into number 2 is activity. Oh, yes. By the way, I love the idea about ritual. I never even thought about that, but that is really interesting. And I wish I had a coach like you back when I was doing that, because it was very difficult to do on your own.
It is difficult.
And I think it would be a struggle for most people. But so number 2 is activity. And I guess activity is so many different levels for people. But sometimes it just means going for a walk, right?
Yes. Activity doesn't mean exercise. And I think that in our society, sometimes when I say activity, especially to women, they see this horrible image of a gym full of equipment and big buff men. And they're
that might be okay if we see the big buff men. But
exactly, might be motivating to some, and it's good for some. But I think that for a lot of people, it really is intimidating and not pleasure.
It would be for me, for sure.
Because if I take you back to your childhood, you naturally were moving. You know, you were not you were moving your body a lot. And every child, it doesn't matter who you are in the world and where you are. Humans love to move. It's over time with school, with the systems that we have, the framework of how we live, that we take that away. But I can assure you, it's in every one of us. We love to move. The body loves to move. And one of the things that I always tell people is watch people dancing. You know, dance brings joy. You know, usually when people dance, unless of course you're a very stiff man, you know, but usually dancing brings lots of joy and people laugh and they smile. And I believe in activity being able to provide that. So activity is even more important for women because we're more sensitive to bone density loss. So you need to get out there and you need to find something that brings you joy. So I favor, especially for women, because we love socializing and we love our tribes, to find something that is social, that gets you moving, but then gets you connecting with others. Whether it's playing bowling, or I don't know if you've heard of pickleball, but it's the new.
I have heard about it lately.
I send everybody there now, because everybody that's doing it is telling me, Annie, I have so much fun. I look forward to exercising for the first time in my life. So I'm thrilled, because it's aerobic, but it's also strength. It's social. It's the best. But as you said, sometimes it's Tuesday, it's after dinner, nobody's around. I'm going to go for a walk. And that is amazing what it does for your body.
So endorphins are a big part of it. And I don't know, I'd love to, it would be interesting to understand this better, and I'm sure you can clarify this for me. Is when I go for a walk, you can get endorphins from just a simple walk. It doesn't have to be a big fast walk or run, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would also like to share with you and the listeners that walking in nature, if you just go to the park, doesn't have to be a fancy conservation or, the big Pacific mountains. There is a relationship with nature that is scientifically proven to actually be even further better on you. So they've measured blood pressure, for example. People just walking in a park actually lowers your blood pressure even further than just having a walk in your neighborhood.
I totally agree with you, because I'm a walker, and we live on the lake, and I get endorphins from, okay, you guys can laugh at me, but this is that I see swans and ducks and all kinds of birds and everything like that. And it brings such joy to me. And I always look at them and going, oh my goodness, if these animals can cope with all these stresses in nature, why can't I become a stronger person because of it as well?
Great perspective.
Yeah. So, but they remind me about how, you can be stronger.
Mm-hmm. So the key message with activity is find something that you love, absolutely, absolutely critical.
Okay, so that's a good rule. Emotional environment. Oh my goodness, that's a tough one, because I think you could go on forever on that one.
Yes, but the 30-second on that is that you need to be feeling safe and supported in your life, and you need to look and evaluate: are you in a place where it is safe for you to be yourself? Yeah. And where you also step out and you feel good about your environment, or are you, for example, in a home where, you moved there 2 years ago and you still have boxes, so
something might be telling you don't want to be there.
Yeah. So creating positive environments that are driven by your support systems, your family, your friends, your neighbors, and a community at large.
Okay, so, well, that's, I think it's sort of interesting when you said about boxes still in the home. That kind of might be a telltale that you just don't want to be there. You haven't really settled in yet.
Yes.
So, your next pillar, number 4, was supplements. I'm a big supplement queen, being a big believer forever. So tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Now, for most women, it is critical to have a number of supplementation, everyday additional probiotics, everyday additional omega-3 fatty acids. We just don't get enough from our diets. The rest really depend on the person. Mm-hmm. And there's very specific needs for women as we age. But very clearly, those are the 2 that I never miss, in addition to my multi, but sometimes I have a tendency to forget a little bit on that one. And that's, again, the habit and the ritual of making sure that's part of our daily, but that is absolutely required and necessary.
Yeah, your body just can't get enough of it. And I mean, plus if you just can't eat enough of some things to get enough, right?
Absolutely. And life gets in the way. So it's normal, not every day we control what we eat. And the fact is this is the ugly truth of what is happening also with the food supply, is that the nutrients in our food has decreased in quality.
And I think what you're saying about for all women, I also, with specifically for middle-aged women, I can remember starting very young on B complex. For those women that are a little younger, can have a lot of stress in their life.
Yes.
And I actually use B complex to get off of caffeine, because it's like a high. It creates a high for you.
Very smart.
Yeah, so that got me over the caffeine kick. So for those, not that I'm a nutritionist or know anything, that's personally what was good for my body. It might not be for somebody else, but that was what.
And a small trick for the audience that might be close to menopause or perimenopausal stage. The key to a successful menopause is to support your adrenal glands as best as possible. Of course, activity is number one, actually, on menopause, decrease symptoms, the ugly symptoms, but having very, very strong adrenal glands, and adrenals love B vitamins. So that totally supports what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a big difference. So start early.
Exactly.
So number 5 was rejuvenation.
Yes. You have to take care of your soul. And for someone, it could be a great book. My Sunday afternoon with my book. Rejuvenation could be one of my favorite hobbies, is to give back to the girls' club in Regent Park, for example. It's one of the things I do. Rejuvenation could be, I call it the slow Sundays, no technology. And it's a day where I love to cook, and that fills my soul. It's what does something do to fulfill you? It's not a money-making thing, it's not I'm doing this for somebody because I have to. It's the things that fill your soul tank. I have a friend who calls her soul tank. I love that, things that fill your soul tank. And it's necessary for that, holistic well-being.
It's so funny you say that, because actually I never really thought of that. And when you're putting them in pillars, it also reminds me to be aware of those pillars and to make sure that I'm filling them. And for rejuvenation, I think the rest I'm pretty good at, but I've never thought, or purpose, I have to say I'm not as good about that on purpose. But for rejuvenation, now that you've brought it to light to me, I'm going to be more cognitive of that I'm doing that.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. And it's, for me, it's like, what I like to do with people is what is it on a weekly basis? This is not a twice a year,
No.
On a weekly basis, on a weekly basis, we work and we have our chores and we have family commitments and so on. And then, okay, so what do I do for rejuvenation for me?
And of course, I loved how we talked about purpose, but honestly, I think that is so important, is understanding your purpose, because that does get you up and it gives you incentive to what are you going to do for the day. And I think the other thing is that our audience is varied, but one of the things that I can say for purpose is if you're working for a big, big corporation, sometimes you wonder about your purpose, what your purpose is. And it kind of gets lost in it, but it doesn't have to get lost at all, because there's lots of reasons.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting because many of my corporate clients, I have heard that many times, I'm working for Corporation X and they make bad products and I feel terrible, but I have a good job here, blah, 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 right? That's a very common story. And I always say, but that is just one side of your life. Your purpose, can be much separate than that. And it's okay, it's absolutely okay. It's not incongruent to have a professional life that is X and then to also feel a very deep sense of purpose outside of that. Absolutely possible.
I think everyone, if life was perfect, you would have a position in a corporation that believes in the same purpose that you have as well. And,
Absolutely.
And if you're able to do that, then you're probably going to be more fulfilled by that. And I think also what we're talking, luckily for you, your purpose, you live it every day.
Yes.
Lucky for you.
I know. And that's why I've changed career. You know, very much so. Very much.
I also think for lots of women that are solopreneurs and own businesses and run successful businesses, is still remembering that they can bring some of that purpose into their work environment, because they might have a little bit more flexibility in it.
Sure.
It's like working with a charity or whatever. There's so many different things that you can do to support that purpose.
Great point. And I would add that within corporations, there are many now initiatives that are all about corporate goodwill that you can actually support and be involved in, that will give you purpose, you know?
I was at International Women's Day. I was on a panel, and it was for a tech company. And they brought me in because I was one of those ones who, you know, I've had the corporate background, but I've also had my own businesses as well. And one of the things that I was really happy to hear is a lot of big organizations are setting up in where women get together and they network together within the company even. And it's so wonderful to see that, because you know that also provides a purpose, because then you're helping other women or your colleagues. It doesn't have to be only women, but you're also helping others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So those 6 pillars, you know, are all equally important. Some you practice every day, like your nutrition, your supplementation, and your activity, you know, and some are more general and they're maybe work in progress, you know. So when I take people through this in coaching, we work on all the dimensions, of course, but some are a little bit more, you know, applicable day to day.
Yeah, or it's just, you know, we're all so different and our needs are so different, but some you're going to struggle with more than others. Like for me, it was definitely the purpose now as a But the other thing that I think is kind of interesting listening to what your pillars are is that if you have those, you know, you might disagree with me, is that you probably are going to find a little bit more balance in your life. Mm-hmm. And I know balance means different things. I know balance means something very different to me than a lot of people.
Yes.
But I think for most people that would give them some balance.
What I see in my clients is that they feel that it's all hanging together at last. I don't feel that there's this, oh my God, I've got all this pressure here, and then, but I'm resisting because I want to be doing here. Like there's this fulfillment that is happening.
So nothing is disconnected then.
Absolutely. Because I think that we all will realize and admit that some weeks are more challenging time-wise. Some weeks, you know, something emotional happened. You know, we got some difficult news. So that there's a fluctuation always that is happening. But when you're constantly nurturing these 6 dimensions, first of all, you navigate through these ups and downs with a lot more grace, a lot more strength, a much greater resilience, you know, and you feel so much better. So I think there's a greater satisfaction, definitely, you know. And so if that's balance for you, then definitely.
It's living with intention almost, isn't it?
Very much so. Very much so.
Oh. Well, we're running out of time because I could ask you so many more questions, and I'm sure our listeners would like to also ask you a lot of questions, which, by the way, we're going to be putting in the notes where you can connect with Annie, so that's not going to be a big deal. I'm sure, Annie, you'll be more than happy to talk to different people.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I like asking all our guests, and I know you will have a message to all the people that are listening. What is that one message that you want to make sure people know?
About business or about wellness?
You know what? You pick whatever you want, or you could do both. It's okay with me. I'm sure we'd like to hear either.
Well, perhaps it's something that actually arches things beautifully, so that and arches through both business and health and wellness is all our lives. We as we grow up, we hear a lot of different messages that sometimes put in us what I call the fixed mindset, right? That infamous concept. And which means that, you know, I'm limited. I've never been good at sports, or, you know, I'm just not a money person. And, you know, I was fat. So as a kid, I'm always going to be fat and uncoordinated. We believe that in our lives in a holistic way, right? It affects all the dimensions of our lives.
Absolutely.
And I would say, like, the biggest thing for me is that I came from a very challenging childhood, and I believed a lot of the things that had been given to me that were very limiting, emotionally speaking, physically speaking. And as I grew up, eventually I finally saw that, no, this was for me an opportunity to, you know, rewrite who I was going to be, what my story was going to be. And, you know, they call that growth mindset, this ability to see that if I want a set of skills, it's up to me. It's not, you know, going to descend from the sky. It is up to me. Either I'm going to learn, I'm going to seek the resources. And that growth mindset has been the biggest asset to me in my professional life, because I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur. And I certainly did not see myself as a woman who could run marathons, a woman that could go back to school, a woman that could do Ironman, a woman that could have, you know, like the biggest love of her life come midlife, you know? And that's all growth mindset. It has served me in every dimension. So I would love for your listeners, you know, if they're interested in that concept, there's a beautiful book about it. But that's the biggest thing, is you can absolutely do anything you wish, you know, it's up to you.
Yeah, it all starts with you. But I also think that there's people like yourself that lots of people can't do this on their own.
Yes.
It is just too hard. It's too difficult because there's so many other things in our lives that start pulling us away in a different direction. Like if you're not in an emotional, in a great environment, then all of these other pillars are going to start crumbling.
Absolutely.
So it's really tough to do. So, I mean, life is not perfect. Just like you said, it is very messy.
Oh, yes.
that is life. That is how we learn stuff and how we become better people through it, right?
Yes. And so that support system is key, right? Because I've never done anything alone. I've always had great mentors, great support systems. And maybe one last tip for everyone is ask for help.
Yes.
Ask for help. Ask it often. Ask it early. That's probably one of the biggest things I've learned, is ask for help.
Don't wait till you're really stressed. Now, my husband would laugh at me because I'm the one saying, don't wait till you're overstressed to ask for help. Because I'm guilty, and I think most of us are guilty of that, but if you let it go too far, it just is not healthy. Everything else starts breaking down on all of these pillars.
Yes.
So do ask for help. You know what, particularly women. And with all the people that are listening, you've seen every week we have women here on the podcast, and they're all there to help. If you picked up the phone, I know every one of our guests would say, if you need help, we would help you. Like, you know, it's just because we're women, we want to give back. That's who we are.
Yes.
And, thank goodness for that, right?
Yes.
I'm not saying men don't, because men definitely do, because there's definitely great male mentors as well.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, but in our circumstance with ladies in biz, we're just the ladies.
Yes.
Yeah, lady power. Anyway, so now one of the things is I want people to be able to go back and find you on your website.
Yes.
Your website is so pretty. You know, as a digital marketer, I'm very look at everything. And when I saw your new website, I went, oh my gosh, that's so pretty.
I wanted people to feel good, when they come to the website.
You use the right colors and everything and to connect with all of what you believe in as well.
Thank you.
So that is, we never even talked about it really quickly, Veev.ca, Veev.ca.
Yes.
But I just wanted to say, we have to talk about your name really quickly because I think it's really important people understand the meaning of it.
Yes. So, Veev is from my background as a French Canadian, joie de vivre. So joie de vivre is all about this love of living, of absolutely the joy of every moment, and this
Live
great
your life. It's live to the fullest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Veev was a play on that.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's so perfect. See, everyone, when you start your business, that brand, it can relate to your brand and your beliefs in your brand. And that is one of the best examples of connection on your belief in your brand and everything. It's just wonderful.
Yes.
So for those that are interested in branding and a company that's branded well, anyways, so we've got to go. So this, probably our listeners know we take these ahead of time, and today happens to be the Friday of our long weekend in May.
Mm-hmm.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
So
oh my
we're
goodness.
going to have some sun.
It's amazing. It's optimism central here, because I think we've all been deprived of that massive sunshine, vitamin D. Get there. Take advantage of it. I don't know how long it's going to last. I think we have a couple of solid days of this. It's going to be just glorious.
So everyone, have a great weekend. Whenever you're listening to this, remember those pillars, and to find, just to help you through getting through these days and becoming a much happier individual. I think that would be how I would sum it up anyway.
Beautiful, beautiful summary. And I'd love to hear from anybody who's interested. You find me on my website, sign up, email me, all super easy, veev.ca.
Okay, thanks so much, Annie, for coming on. I truly, really appreciated you taking the time to share these with us. And I got a lot out of it, so I know our listeners definitely will get a lot out of it.
So pleased. It was my absolute pleasure.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too as well. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to The Ladies in Biz. Send us your comments on ladiesinbiz.com. We would like to hear from you.